अबे संस्कृत रिपीट करो, तुम लोग कहाँ पे खोए हुए हो? हद है यार. अत्याहारः, overeating or too much collecting. प्रयासः, over endeavoring. Cha, and prajalpaha, idle talking. Niyama, rules and regulations. Agraha, too much attachment to. Or agraha, too much neglect of. Janasangha, association with like-minded persons. Cha, laulyam, ardent longing or greed. Cha, and sadbihi, by these six. Bhaktihi, devotional service. Vinashyati, is destroyed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Krishna Chandra Prabhu would like to read the translation.
Yes, Prabhu. Once devotional
Oh,
service
Prabhu,
is...
one second. Haribol, fix the sound. Can't hear him. Hare Krishna. Krishna Chandra, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear,
Yes.
Prabhu?
Yes.
One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following six activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievements.
Lolium. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also, Rupa Goswami says lolium. But there the lolium means spiritual greed. Here the word lolium is used in the context of mundane greed or greedy for mundane achievements. All right. Very, this is pretty interesting, but not so straightforward. With my little bit of experience of bhakti culture and bhakti life, I find, of course, the first verse is itself difficult. Even those who have been practicing for years together, there is a lot of misapplication that happens here. And because of misapplication happens here, either our bhakti path or the growth in bhakti is stunted, or else because of our bhakti, others get disturbed. Either way. So let's take a look at it. Purport. Human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. So this is the slogan we took for Evolve Pune. I just made it from plain living to sublime living because today nobody would like a plain living, so we made it sublime living, high thinking. Since all conditioned living beings are under the control of the Lord's third energy, this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. इसको भागवतम की लैंग्वेज में कहा जाता है कर्मात्मकम बुद्धि. कर्मात्मकम बुद्धि मतलब your mind, your intelligence is always working towards some planning. For example, let's talk about a little bit, give you an example of Buddhism. When a person takes to a Buddhist style of lifestyle and joins a monastery, for example, they have to practice meditation at times for 8 hours stretch. अपना 2 घंटे में नानी याद आ जाता है. Yes, and our senses are so nicely engaged. 8 hours stretch they have. No breakfast, nothing for 8 hours. They go through a very severe and austere way of meditation in terms of our ability today, if you take a look at it. Why it is like that? Because meditation means, focus. But we all have an experience, you all have an experience, our online audience would have an experience too. The moment, let's say, chanting Hare Krishna. Chanting Hare Krishna is still far easier way of meditation. But what happens whenever we begin a practice of meditation, chanting Hare Krishna or just a silent meditation, you see the mind begins to oscillate between the past and the future. That is called as karmatmaka buddhi. Mind cannot sit quietly. It is always planning and thinking, always planning and thinking. It goes into the past, thinking about the mistakes that we did or the opportunities that we missed, which could have changed our present, or else we go into dreamy state, thinking about the future, what I could become. And if it is not about I, then it is about society. If it is not about society, then it is about nation. Then if you're a follower of Elon Musk, then probably it's about whole humanity, sending them to Mars. Depends on what your mindset. So that is a point which is mentioned here, that this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. Mind is always thinking, always planning. Okay, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has three primary energies or potencies. Therefore, let me complete the point that I made. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, when you're chanting, here. Somebody asked Prabhupada, what do we think? Prabhupada said, that's what, you're not supposed to think, only here. Because the goal of meditation is to quiet the mind. And that same goal, Prabhupada said, just chant Hare Krishna, hear Hare Krishna, that's all. So that is possible, but it's difficult, but that's what we have to, we should have a clarity what we are doing actually. Otherwise, at times when it becomes ritual, it's very difficult. Of course, our chanting gets really troubled, or it becomes a struggle if in case we have committed an aparadh or a sin. Either of the situation, if you have committed a sinful activity or if you have committed a Vaishnava aparadh, your chanting will become very terrible. You'll be like, Hare Krishna, khatam nahi ho raha. You'll be like totally exhausted after 4 rounds. You'll be, ye kya chal raha hai? You all would have that experience if in case we have done any blunder, if you cross your boundary. Like that happened. So anyways, in a normal course of time, when we're living a sinless life and we are careful of Vaishnava aparadh, then at least at that point of time we should, try to hear. So the purpose of going on yatra is just to get that experience. We are going to Himalayas in a few days from now. Himalayas traditionally had been the place of yogis who would leave everything and go and meditate. It's just the environment. It's just like all of us have gone to Mayapur. The chanting. How many of you agree? The experience of chanting in Mayapur. You can sit and chant 64 rounds and you'll think, अरे अभी तो शुरुआत हुई है. How many of that experience? 16 rounds से ऐसे खत्म होते हैं. अरे हो गए. और यहाँ बोलते हैं अभी तक नहीं हुए. That's just a difference. So environment creates the ethos. The ether creates. That's a place. Himalaya is a place where yogis have performed so much tapasya. Is the abode of Lord Shiva. Not only Lord Shiva, is all abode of Narayan Rishi, that whole range. So when we are going for that, please kindly make sure, I'm going to speak to all of you before we leave for Yatra. But the point comes, I'm making a point. Prepare something for yourself, what you're going to achieve there. Don't go with the name that I'm just going to go for sightseeing and halla gulla. No. One thing that you really want to achieve there is improve the quality of chanting and get a higher experiences. And there is no better place than Himalayas for that. Particularly when you will be all away from the public and out in the forest and beautiful Himalayan ranges. Seeing those Himalayan ranges only is purifying. You let you experience. I'll not speak now. Once you go there, you'll have an experience of that. Just seeing them is purifying. All right? So don't miss out on that. To have the experience of, chanting. The Supreme Personality God has three primary energies, Antaranga, Tathascha, and Bahiranga Shakti. The living entity constitutes the marginal and they're situated between the internal and external potencies. Being subordinate as eternal servants of the Supreme Personality Godhead, the Jivatmas or atomic living entities must remain under the control of either the internal or external potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely constant engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. Mahatmanastamam pata devim prakritam ashritaha bhajanti ananaya manaso gyatva bhutadimavayam. O son of Prata, those who are not deluded, the great souls under the protection of the divine nature, they are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality Godhead, original and inexhaustible. All right, the next paragraph talks about who is Mahatma. Other Rashmi, would you like to read? And then we can have others raise their hand. I can call upon them. Oops, sorry, go ahead. I muted or unmuted something.
The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded. Cripple-minded persons always engage in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism like nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. They may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the members of their family, community, or society, either national or international. Actually, all this is extended sense gratification from personal to communal to social. This may all be very good from the material point of view, but such activities have no spiritual value. The basis of such activity is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Only when a person gratifies the sense of the Supreme Lord can he be called a Mahatma or broad minded person.
So, my question to all of you, uh, the decision of Pandavas to engage in a war, was it science gratification or was it service to the Lord? Service. What's an evidence? What's evidence? How do you say it was service to the Lord? Yes. Krishna asked. It was Krishna's decision. And another proof is right at the beginning of the war, Arjuna said, I'm not going to fight. And Krishna says, Tato Yudhyasva Bharata, you fight. So, Pandavas are known as Mahatmas. Why? Because they followed according to they followed according to the instructions of the Lord. So now, one perspective you can call it, it was extended sense gratification, including the personal sense gratification. They wanted to become the king, extended sense gratification because they wanted to provide for their family and their relatives and whatnot. But that all becomes bhakti because they did follow the orders of the Lord. Yes, Agni Prabhu. Okay. All right. So Agni Prabhu is making a point. Arjuna wanted to leave for his sense gratification. Yes, his decision not to follow becomes sense gratificatory. Correct. That's the point. Okay. So let's go to the next paragraph. Nikhil Prabhu, go ahead.
In
Yes.
in the Bhagavad in the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita, the words Davin Prakritim refer to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani or her expansion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual Jeev souls are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is a Duratma or a cripple-minded person. Such mentally crippled Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya.
Thank you. My question to all of you is, there is no discussion about energies of the Lord in the verse. Why Prabhupada is speaking about energies? Isn't it? There is not even a single word in the verse that speaks about energies. It talks about 6 activities which destroy bhakti. Then why Srila Prabhupada is talking about it? Okay, we can read the next paragraph and you can continue thinking about it. Mother Yagya, read the next paragraph. Indeed.
And Pranam Prabhuji. Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold miseries: Adi Devika Klesha, suffering caused by the demigods such as droughts, earthquakes, and storms; Adi Bhautik Klesha, sufferings caused by the living entities like insects or enemies; and Adhyatmic Klesha, suffering caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. Daiva Bhutatma Hetavaha, the conditioned soul subjected to these 3 miseries by the control of the external energy suffers various difficulties.
Hare Krishna. Any thoughts? Anyone like to say why Prabhupada is talking about these energies? Yes, Abhishek Prabhu. Next time we can have another mic. I'll have to repeat. You'll have to make a short answer so I can repeat. So the point is, when a living entity is working under the external energy, then the points which I mentioned here happens. Those activities happens because he's under the external energy Lord. Very nice. Anything else? So I believe those hands are up there for reading, right? If in case anyone want to give an answer, okay, fine. Let's read another paragraph. Mother Anjana, please read the next paragraph. The main problem confronting. Then after that, we'll take a look. Yes, mother.
The main problem confronting the conditioned souls is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness? Everyone requires possessions such as food grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for the maintenance of the body. But one should not collect for more than necessary for this actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body.
Hare Krishna. So now Prabhupada will begin speaking about all of the 6 activities which are mentioned in the verse. So once again, any thoughts why Prabhupada is talking about energies, Antaranga, Bahiranga, and what do you call as? Madhyastha, right? Tatashta Shakti. Yes, Shaman Prabhu. Okay. So the point is why Prabhupada is writing about this, just to help us understand what's our position or situation in this creation. We are not independent. We are dependent. We are tathashta, marginal. We are dependent either on the internal energy or the external energy. And those who are under the influence of external energy, this is what happens. So these are the qualities of those who are under external energy. And as the devotees, we are trying to move from change our master from the external energy to the internal energy. So our position and situation have been defined here. So there should not be any misunderstanding. First of all, it is not a subject matter of our endeavor, that I can make an endeavor and I can get rid of it. No, we are dependent. So when you're dependent, how much ever you endeavor, the result is dependent on the one who you depend on. Your success is dependent on the one who gives you result. You cannot demand result. That's the point of it here. All right, so let's take a look at it of about Atyahara. We'll take a look at it and we'll spend a little bit time on each of these items and have discussion. So next paragraph is about Atyahara. Mother Priyanka, please read about according to nature's arrangement. Yes, Mother.
According to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, birds will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take away the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach can hold and then try to keep the rest in storage. According to scriptures, this collection of more than necessary atyahara is prohibited. Now the entire world is suffering because of this.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So, any thoughts, any reflection on Atyahara? Anyone like to share? Atya, Ati, Ahar. Ahar, Vihar. So, one thing is of Ati Ahar is Adik Khana. Therefore, Prabhupada is focusing on that. And another meaning that Prabhupada is focusing of Atyahara is collecting more than necessary, more possessions. So let me ask this thing. Srila Prabhupada came to institute a Brahminical culture. So we may be of whatever varna based on our inherent qualities, but we are getting trained up in Brahminical culture. So according to Brahminical culture, what should be the attitude towards possessions? According to Brahminical culture, what should be the attitude towards possessions? Yes, Mother Jyoti and Deshtipak Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the first reflection that comes while reading this passage is Isa Vasyam Idam Sarvam.
Perfect. Correct. So, thank you. Again, I'll go back to, that's a good answer. Again, I'll go back to my question here now. According to Brahminical culture, what's the point of view on possessions? Nitai Pran Prabhu?
So it should ideally be minimum enough to maintain the body.
Yeah. In other words, that's one way of it. Let's add a bhakti element to it. Okay, let's hear from Anshul Prabhu. Yes. That's Ishavasyam shloka. Okay. Yes. In theory, this is all fantastic words. How much we apply? Give me application. Correct, correct. No, this is all theoretical things. Whatever is necessary to execute, who decides the necessary? Yeah. How much we follow spiritual authority. So, what does means that you can follow? Answer is correct. But what it means, see, this whole part of spiritual training and Brahminic culture is to make us dependent on the Lord. To make us, therefore, the energies are being discussed in the beginning. So, how do you become dependent on the Lord? Well, when you depend on the Lord, when you stop depending on yourself. अगर आपको एक बार का खाना मिला है, be happy with the food you have got it. Don't stack it up thinking that रात को भी तो खाना है, 2 आलू का पराठा उठा के रख लेता हूँ. This is not Brahminical culture. Now you cannot say, Prabhu, no, because I need to protect my body because it has to be used in the service. Now this is misuse of it. Why? I mean, if Lord Krishna can give you the lunch, why can't he give you the dinner? Why can't he have that much faith? So that's a point. Not, of course, I'm talking for, let's say, more on the renounced order. Grihasthas have to do the necessary things. We are not discussing too much in details, but I'm just saying one principle about here is, particularly for brahmacharis, they should never stack up any prasadam. They should never stack up any prasadam. Thinking, धीरे धीरे मैं भगवान की कृपा प्राप्त करता रहूँगा. No. You should eat only fresh cooked prasadam which is served, have that, and move on with life. Not like that. Then how would we ever have the sense of dependency on the Lord? Again, we go back to the same thing. So that's the point here. Atihara. Ek to overconsumption. Overconsumption, Prabhupada have tagged along with overpossession. So holding on things. We should not do that. Yes, Abhishek Prabhu. Okay, the question is sometimes we need to keep few dry fruits and all that. Well, few is okay. Packets are not okay. Right? So we can, something if it is needed, we can keep it. Again, we have to, I would say, let me say this way. In the beginning stages, when we're in the training stage now, don't do it. Don't do it. Take that training stage as a detoxification. We already have come from a strong karmatmakam background, karmakanda background and whatnot background we have come. At this point in time, we need to reset ourselves. So at this point in time, better just do it what is given to you. Otherwise, we'll not grow. Our consciousness will not grow. Nothing doing. Prasadam mila, wonderful. Nahi mila, wonderful. Some voluntarily austerities we have to accept. And we have to be a little bit more open-minded, broad-minded. Otherwise, I've seen it in Brahmachari Ashram also. We are quite pampered with 3 times prasadam, 2 times prasadam, so many prasadam. Of course, as a brahmachari man, as a leader, they have to do it. They want to make sure, give an experience to brahmachari that this is your home. But the brahmachari training, in part of it is missed out. Brahmachari becomes more dependent on the temple, thinking that roti kapda makan mil raha hai na. I don't need to work now. I don't need to serve now. Even if I don't serve, I get to. But we miss out on the dependence on the Lord. So it's best we live with the minimal. Whatever your preconceived ideas are, we should just put it aside. Don't bring it as a part of your training. Nothing. We should live with the minimal. Whatever is there, if it is a torn thing, we wear it, no problem. Whatever is given by the ashram, we accept it. Don't justify, Prabhu, I need it because I need something which can run and last for longer. Fantastic. Get married. That's an ashram for you. Have a married life which can run longer. That's not brahmachari ashram. Brahmachari ashram is what is given, you accept it. What is not given, you accept it. So a little bit we have to reset. We cannot bring our mindset. No question asked. This is it, that's it. Otherwise, tell me, how do you reset your consciousness? If you are not willing to reset your consciousness, then you think you're already in a pretty good stable consciousness. What is the stability of consciousness? So this is not that easy to apply, not so easy. Our lockers will keep getting filled up with all kinds of books. Prabhupada is going to talk about that ahead also. So much atyara, so many things we do. For brahmacharis only, the dhoti kurtas don't go away. They keep taking new dhoti kurta, the old dhoti kurta doesn't go. They keep stacking up so many things. Therefore, we intentionally give them a very small locker. But because the ashram grows in size, The locker size also grows. As your services grows, you get multiple lockers, then you have multiple lockers filled with multiple things. It's a challenge. So I would say in the beginning, nothing doing. Don't bring your mindset. Don't bring your mindset of practical life. Prabhuji, this is what practical I think about it. You don't know anything. Keep quiet. Just follow what is said. Whatever ashram gives, be happy with that. So, Atya, any other thoughts? Any other reflections? Yes, Saurabh Prabhu. Oh, that's always there. That's always there. Yeah, I mean, remember the example of the sage who came to perform meditation at the bank of a river? On Saturday only we spoke about it. From one copen, the more he got, the more he brought trouble. So in Brahmacharya, we should not do that. We should not. We should live with the bare minimum. We should live with the bare minimum. We should cultivate the consciousness and stop planning. You know, IT folks have got a big disease. आश्रम ज्वाइन करते नहीं, वो अपने आश्रम लाइफ प्लानिंग करना शुरू कर देते हैं. मैं ये करूँगा. अबे व्हाट डू यू करेगा? तेरा सारा प्लानिंग ही तो बंद करना है. The first part of our training is to stop your planning. You keep on planning, as if you have got the pure mind. Nothing. चुपचाप बैठने का है. No planning now. Just follow. It doesn't happen. You have not have an experience of what yogic traditions are. You've taken Bhakti Yoga path to be so simple because it has been simple. Nothing going to change. You know? Otherwise, this is very strict rules and regulations have to follow. I just gave an example of Buddhist monastery. सुबह से शाम तक बैठे रहो, कुछ नहीं खाना, 8 घंटे एवरीडे मेडिटेशन करो. You know, अपने को निर्जल एकादशी पे वो एक दिन मेडिटेशन करने में आफत आ जाती है. ऐसा ना? So it's not easy. It's not easy. So how easy for us to engage our senses and do devotion service? Morning में 2 घंटा जाप करके चलो, बाकी दिन कर्मात्मक हम. Engage your body and mind. That's how we purify ourselves. Yes. Correct. Not only when you get more facility attached, you divide the ashram by that. Then other devotees will ask for it. Prabhuji, he has got a Mac. Why I have a HP laptop? Prabhuji, he has got a 4,000 worth jacket. Why I have a 500 rupees sweater? I mean, what are you doing? I mean, this is brahmachari life, wearing an expensive clothes and moving around. Prabhuji, no, I want that because I know this jacket would last for 10 years. That is not your decision. Who told you to decide for yourself? You came empty-handed, then who are you to decide what jacket you wear or what cloth you wear? Tell me. If you wanted to wear, why didn't you brought it when you were coming? This isn't a dichotomy. I mean, what are you trying to do? You're trying to advise your authorities. No, Prabhuji, I know because I need it. Why? Because this is going to run last year. If you needed it, if you think it's in last year, you should have brought it, period. Now you come and ask in the ashram that I need this expensive thing. It doesn't make sense. Nah? What about the other brahmacharis will think about it? Now imagine in brahmachari ashram, you have every brahmachari moving with a 5,000 worth jacket. What will Congress think? बोला मैं यार 2,000 का नकली माल पहन के घूमता हूँ. ये ब्रह्मचारी 5,000 का पहन के घूम रहा है. I mean, isn't it? Please do not disconnect from the reality. You know, outside world is extremely expensive, and you know devotees are working hard. They have to maintain their standard. From there, they are contributing towards the temple. Every penny counts. We have to be super careful how we spend even a single penny. We cannot bring in this idea. So we have to understand that. And the books that we take, every Yatra Prabhuji, some books we have to take. अबे तूने भगवद गीता पढ़ी है पहले पूरी? प्रभुपाद की बुक्स पढ़ी क्या पहले? हम ये लेंगे, वो लेंगे. प्रभुजी मुझे ये चाहिए, वो चाहिए. अरे तुम्हारा क्या ये? I mean, what? I mean, big daddy taking you on a holiday vacation or what? This baseline understanding of what brahmachari ashram is quite missing actually. You know, I mean, what's the idea? Tell me, where is the idea of, you know, brahmachari don't eat unless Guru asks him to eat? Where's the idea that brahmachari goes and asks for bags for grains, and then he comes and he cooks, and then he feeds Guru, and then Guru says, what's the idea? Of course, we may not have the practice, but the idea should be there, no? The principle should be there, no? So we have to be careful of these things. Problem is, those who overthink, they create a problem with themselves. Brahmachari life means, बहुत हो गया सोचना, अभी सुनो, and follow. And those who keep on sitting and मेरा मन का संग ये वो, they keep on coming with very interesting ideas. It doesn't work like that. Anything else? Yes, Shubham Prabhu. यार माइक लगा दो, लोगों को सुनाई नहीं देगा. तुम लोग बैठे तो हो इतने में. एक माइक लग जाएगा ना उससे करके. Make it quick. Yes, Shubham Prabhu. Which one? Oh, the question is raised here. Does other three ashrams are allowed to collect? Well, actually, there's only one ashram which is allowed to collect. That is Grihastha. Vanaprastha, sannyas, no question. And Brahmachari, to fully dependent. Okay. So Grihasthas, well, in terms of Grihasthas, of course, they need a house, they need some possessions, no doubt about it. They need a permanent place. In fact, rental place is not recommended for them. So again, we have to see the situation-wise how it is. But Grihasthas need possessions because they have to raise a family. Brahmachari needs some possession, an ashram to practice. And Grihastha needs their dwelling to be able to live and do that. Nitai Pran Prabhu, you want to read or you want to say something? Then I'm coming to Mother Yagya. Krishna Chandra Prabhu, you can add something.
Hare Krishna. It's a tough call for brahmacharis. But then what to do? They have chosen that they have to. It's disciplined life at the end of it.
Yes.
It's a disciplined life, and that's how we congregation members look upon the brahmacharis to get inspired.
I mean, brahmacharis are supposed to set the example of renunciation.
So
And they are moving around with expensive gadgets and everything. I mean, Grihastha सोचेगा नहीं यार ये ब्रह्मचारी लाइफ अच्छा है. You know, घर बैठे बैठे they are moving expensive gadgets and whatnot. You know, that's a very wrong trend being set up. Okay.
no, we take the best out of them.
Huh?
We take the best out of them.
Yeah. All right, Nitai Pran Prabhu.
Yeah, this is for reading, Prabhu.
हाँ बोलिए निताई प्राण प्रभु.
No, I've raised the hand for reading, Prabhu.
Sorry, what's that?
It's
Oh,
just for the
reading के लिए. अच्छा, Mother Yagya, you were raising hand. Yeah.
Yes, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I wanted to just raise one reflection out of the whole conversation and a question also. Since we're discussing this, I just wanted to understand, like, we are living we are part of society, and when we are like
Hari
living
bol.
a brahmachari
There's a
life,
live session going on. अब testing मत करो. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Mother Yagya.
when we are living this brahmachari life, the idea of becoming a minimalistic, it actually at times overpowers our own personality. But realizing yourself to be part of society, community, or family, we think we have already so many possessions. So how brahmachari has to look, that we gotta engage that in the service of Lord, because when we think like that, the services increases.
Sorry, your last line was not very clear. Maybe there was an internet issue. Make it 1 point so I understand. What's about brahmachari? Like what? What about brahmachari?
Yeah, so the idea of minimalistic life for a brahmachari versus being a part of society, family, community, and having so many possessions. So it just increases our services, and that idea of minimalistic life, it just, it kinds of get mixed up. How to see that? I don't know if I'm being clear.
Yeah, not very clear to me.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to understand, like, from my own situation. For example, I try to, and I want to be more minimalistic so that I can focus on my sadhana, but at the same time realizing myself to be part of family, community, and
Society, correct.
I have a lot of accumulations and there are a lot of things. So I just cannot reduce them down. But
Correct.
when I just engage them, thinking that, okay, everything is provided by God and it has to be engaged in His services. So that increases even my own services. And at times I just feel there's less time left for focusing on sadhana and there are more engagements. So how can we cut down on this?
See, if I've understood it correctly, I would say this is to make to be able to see clearly what is needed or not needed. It requires a lot of maturity. We have come from a background of a consciousness where we want more and more. That's what had been our training, isn't it? Now, just because we have come to Krishna consciousness for a few months to few years, that ain't going to go away. Because that was never a part of a training in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness training, initial training is chant 16 rounds, follow 4 aggregate principles. Wherever anything or anyone have told you, you have to cut down on the, the wardrobe that you have 10 dresses, now throw 5 dresses. Nobody have ever told you. So if you look at it, this part of it, that I need to have a less possessions, have never been told to anyone or never been a part of training in that sense. So in other words, what I'm saying is, therefore, for an individual to be able to make that decision is extremely difficult because we have not been trained up. So that decision or that oversight can only happen with the help of a senior. I'll tell you my example. You know, this was one of my favorite books. So when I was living in America, so well, for the first time when I read it, I tried to cut out few things for myself. So what I did for myself was, see, attachment doesn't go away. I'm telling you, for the conditional living entity. So how did I minimize it? What I did is, I took out 3 to 4 pairs of clothes, which I would go and wear in the office day after day, week after week. So now you have big boxes of clothes, you know, coming from college life, all that, you have big collection of clothes. That I still could not dispose of. नहीं रखते हैं, ये फट गया तो आगे use करेंगे. That I stacked it up, packed it into the boxes and kept it. So now the situation was such, will of providence was such. And when I graduated, I was living in Columbus only. Somehow every 6 months I had to change the house. So every time when I had to change, and I'm a very lazy person, I don't like carrying much luggage. Every time when I moved, I had dropped 2 or 3 boxes behind, saying that I'm not going to carry extra weightage. So I'll tell you, by the time when I came to the final location where I stayed for the most of the part, I had the minimum luggage with me. And the example is, when I came back, when I left everything in America, when I came back here, I had less luggage and belongings than as compared to what I brought to America when I went for the first time. It's just because I was forced into this whole of changing accommodation, it automatically got away. If I would have stayed in one accommodation, I don't think so. I would have disposed. I would have preserved it, thinking, after 2 years, why to waste? 2 साल के पहनेंगे, 3 साल के पहनेंगे, वो मिट्टी लगे, गंदा हो, कुछ भी हो. So actually, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. You know, so difficult. But in the brahmachari ashram, and of course in the grahastha ashram, under the guidance of senior grahastha, that can be done. For brahmacharis, that's quite possible. That's quite possible. You know, this should be a part of training actually. Krishna Chandra Prabhu.
Oh, you were speaking that the grahasthas can collect, but I think we have to be very careful, because once you over endeavor in collecting, you might get into the pitfall, you know.
That's the next subject, prayashas, correct.
So grahasthas also should not over collect.
Yeah. I mean, what I meant by grahasthas are allowed to possess.
Yeah, but you
unlike
see,
other 3 ashrams.
most of them, you know, suddenly they will come in a very austere manner, and then they seek for opulence, you know. So this is a danger grahasthas go through.
I mean, shastrically, if I can just make shastric comment, don't mind. I'm just speaking what Shastra says. Don't see from the bodily platform what I'm going to say. Shastra says 3 means to expend. So in a household life, you know, ideally, or not ideally, generally, a man can still live with little or no belongings. But womanhood or motherhood, they need some belongings. And the reason why they need some belongings is because they are the one who actually maintain the household. They are the one who run the family. You know, they take care of the child, they take care of the husband, traditionally. So, you know, they would need those certain basic requirements to be. Man in that way is a little more free. You know, his job is to go out. So that had been the case. So post-marriage, generally, some of this possession comes, some things needs to be acquired, no doubt about it. But a thin line is there between the need and the greed. I would say for that, grahastha should have some role models amongst the grahasthas. Those who have. If anyone ever get a chance to visit America, do visit Chicago. Prabhupada disciples, Pritush Rava Prabhu, if I'm correct, and Mother Danakeli, one of my favorites. I mean, Mother Danakeli is PhD from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I believe she was PhD in mathematics or something. What a strong lady, what a strong lady. You know, extremely austere, extremely simple, no possessions. Their livelihood, since they got married back in 78 or 79, had been all through distributing Prabhupada books. They both never earned. Now imagine, MIT PhD graduate, would he not get a salary? Would he not get a job? You're talking about back in 70s getting graduate with a PhD degree. How many people were getting PhD then? Would not she get a job? She would have become an owner of some big tech company. But they chose to live simple. They have a van. I don't know the state now, not now. So they had a van filled with Prabhupada books, and whatever by distributing Prabhupada books, they got the money. By that, they maintained themselves. What an example! What an example. I mean, first of all, let me confess, I learned my NOI from her only. Mother Dhan ke liye. I wish I can get your recordings. Fantastic. When she was speaking, na, sare brahmachari kaapte the. I mean, she lived with the other realization. I mean, we have lived with the minimal, everything. Profound classes. We can take a look at it. Chicago Temple. We used to have this festival, Holy Name. His Holiness Ramapada Maharaj used to celebrate that. There, she would every time pick a topic of nectar of instruction. And every time, twice in a year, we'll have that workshop for over a long weekend. So then she'll speak on this NOI like that. So, all right. So that was a discussion. I thought we'll have a little open discussion rather than just reading it. So we get to hear from all what are the reflections and thoughts, because this is about practical application. We'll take it forward tomorrow about prayashas and other things, which goes prayashas, prajalpa, and then Prabhupada again comes back on Atyahara. Let's do one thing. Let's read Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta's verdict on Atyahara also. So that will, complete the discussion on Atyahara. Is that okay? If you go 2 pages ahead, on the one page, the next page. At the bottom in my book, page number 21, it is mentioned Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur's commentary on Atyahara. I'm reading that. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anuvritti commentary that too much endeavor to acquire knowledge on the part of mental speculators or dry philosophers falls within the category of Atyahara. So we discuss about food, we discuss our possessions, and now too much acquisition of knowledge is also called as Atyahara. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, the endeavor of philosophical speculators to write volumes of books and write philosophy divided Krishna consciousness entirely futile. The work of karmis who write volumes of books on economic development also falls within the category of Atyahara. Similarly, those who have no desire for Krishna consciousness and who are simply interested in possessing more and more material things, either in the shape of scientific knowledge or monetary gains, are all included under the control of Atyahara. So we can make a point here from this. As a devotee, better be more dependent on the nature than dependent on gadgets for your life. We have become too much dependent on gadgets, isn't it? Everything is. पहले हुआ करता था. जैसे I was 2-3 years ago, I was living in a farm community. We were having some leadership training for a month there, and every morning we used to wake up around 3:30 or 3 o'clock. We used to wake up, maybe around 4 o'clock, by the cuckoo. It was a natural alarm clock. So blissful. And it was such a sweet alarm clock. And the best part of the alarm clock was you cannot shut it. Whatever you do. And once one cock will start, cuckoo, unka samaj aisa uthta tha, cuckoo. Then you are having their Mangal Aarti. And you cannot do anything. So, fantastic. Like that. So the point is, we have become too much dependent on gadgets and all that. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Oops. Yes, unmuting everyone. Yeah, too much become dependent on technology. Try avoiding that. Of course, it makes it more comfortable and convenient, whatever. But yeah, that's the point. Somewhere we should a little bit invest in our relationships also, so that we can depend on each other rather than more on technology. Now, if anyone wants anything, technology has made it so simple, so simple. You can get any answer on the tips of your fingers. Like Android mobile has Google Assistant. You tap it, call so-and-so. Yes, sir. Order me pizza. Yes, sir. Like that. You don't need to speak to people now. We're becoming disconnected. So that's also affects our consciousness. All right, so we'll pause here with Atyahara discussion. 2 points were discussed about Atyahara. And the first was about we being the marginal energy. We can sway anywhere between the internal and the external energy. Right now we are swayed with the external energy. And these are the actions of a living entity. That's what we do it. How many of you acknowledge this is just but a standard part of everyone? Anyone who's born in this world, they are into Atyahara. Yes or no? Unless somebody is trained up. Don't quote me an example of your grandfather who was minimalistic. No. In general, everyone is Atyahari. That's how the external energy keeps us trapped in the material world. And we'll read tomorrow about Prayashas, which is connected with Atyahara. Prayashas, over and over. Prabhupada talks even about building temples for that reason. We should not over and over. All right. Okay, Mother Rashmi. Too much endeavor to acquire knowledge is how Atyahara. Mother, what it means over here by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur is, trying to interpret mental speculation. That is said to be Atyahara. I'll give you an example within ISKCON paradigm. Let me just tell you what Bhaktisiddhanta is saying here. People reading various scriptures and trying to understand what is what. Gyanis, that's generally what they do it. And while attempting to do that, they miss on Bhagavad Gita itself. Bhagavad Gita is a straightforward text spoken by Krishna. They would not pay attention to it. Such Gyanis, you will never find them quoting Bhagavad Gita. You'll find them quoting Taittiriya Upanishad, this Upanishad, that Upanishad, Rig Veda, Phalana Dikana. Abhi to Dr. Bhagavad Gita bolna, jo Krishna ne boli hai. They will not do it. So that's the point here. Now, how this Atyahara of knowledge happens within ISKCON and the disadvantages of it is many times, and we have had many case studies in ISKCON until today, and it's an ongoing factor, and it's going to happen in the future also, no doubt about it. Because as I said, this is a very difficult verse to follow in entirety. So when we let's say somebody start reading Prabhupada books, he gets into learning Sanskrit, he starts reading the commentaries of Acharyas. Now, unless you have been properly established in the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada, that understanding. Now, if you happen to read Acharya's commentaries, see, Acharya's commentaries had two things. One is a pure message, but although the pure message was given according to time, place, circumstances. So there is a context also. So then people begin to draw parallels. Oh, Prabhupada said this, but Jiva Goswami said this. Give you one example, how Jiva fall, or the Jivas fall. Prabhupada says, come back to Godhead. His magazine name is Back to Godhead. BTG. From Prabhupada's perspective, we have come from spiritual world. Jiva Goswami is in his Sandarbhas, right? No, we were never in spiritual world. We were in Brahman, and from there we fell to material world. Now think about it. Now, what stance should you follow? What stance should you take? Okay, Mother Rashmi, you got to know both of it. What stance would you take? Imagine you read the Sandarbhas, I know Prabhupada's stance also. Prabhupada's stance is Jiva fell from, back to Godhead and whatever our Jiva's body have decided now, whatever. And Jiva Goswami's stance is no, Jiva never fell. Jiva it was never in the spiritual world. So at your level, what stance would you follow?
Prabhupada stance.
Yeah, because you are beginner stage. It's very easy for you to say, Prabhupada stance right now. It doesn't happen when you become scholarly. It doesn't happen. When you become intellectual, you want to think, no, it could be like this, it could be like that. And then they read different scriptures. Then they think, Prabhupada was not always correct. Prabhupada somewhere, sometimes. Even if Prabhupada was correct, but because most of the things that Prabhupada, wrote was not written by him directly. Prabhupada spoke. And then it was heard. And it was translated. Not translated, transcribed. So those who transcribed, they were wrong. So like that, so many things person goes into it. So therefore, ideally, we should first of all ground ourselves very nicely in Srila Prabhupada's books. At least we should have read it few times, not once and twice, few times. Prabhupada's books, then venture into Acharya's books, will be safe and will understand in a proper context. Even if there is an apparent contradiction between two Acharyas, the contradiction lies as much as you see a contradiction. If you have a contradictory viewpoint, you will see a contradiction. But if you don't have a contradictory viewpoint, you will not see it. Why? Because both possibilities are possible. Because in Krishna consciousness, for Krishna, everything is possible. Why do you want to limit it? But when we have a contradictory mindset, we'll see the contradiction. So therefore and many devotees have left, Mother. Many have left. Many have left. Not many means not so many, but quite a few people have left because of that. Some people left ISKCON, some people left Bhakti altogether because they committed aparadh. And they become like ghosts. And they hover around other ISKCON communities, disturbing the faith of other devotees. Seriously. For the first time after coming here, when I went back to America for along with one devotee for a preaching program there, so just a day later, I got a phone call from one such fellow. I started talking about, ISKCON, there are so many mistakes, this and that. मैं कहता हूँ, मेरा number कहाँ से? Well, no, that's not important. You understand. This is wrong, that is wrong. I say, you tell me first where you got my number from. And then you have Ritviks around, so many things are there. Like that. That's the point here. Okay, thank you everyone. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Rupa Goswami ki, Upadeshamrita ki.